Good evening, everyone. My name is Gilles Muys. I'm VP of Customer Solutions at Simplus. Simplus is the leading quote-to-cash implementation partner at Salesforce. I'll take you a little bit through explaining what CPQ is all about. Max have already presented the vision, what it's going to become. On our side, we work with what is available today. And I'd like to share with you some of the components that we look at to help companies, clients, companies like yours, to implement CPQ successfully. A little bit of background. I come from finance and accounting. I did that for about 12 years. I got tired of closing books every month, so I decided to go into software development. And I did a lot of custom configurators at that time. CPQ was an unknown concept back in those days. So every company who had that kind of need had to build pretty much custom solutions from the ground up. It was interesting, but very heavy software development efforts. So I was glad when CPQ came as off-the-shelf packages. And I did that for another 10 years before joining Max 5 years ago at Steelbrick. I was third employee there, and then the rest is kind of history. Got acquired by Salesforce. And I'm now joined Simplus in May. Happy to be there, continue the journey, helping clients and employees at Simplus to know more about CPQ. So Simplus does more than just quote-to-cash. We have practices for pretty much all the different clouds at Salesforce: Sales Cloud, Service Clouds, Community Cloud, and obviously with a heavy focus and concentration on quote-to-cash. We don't do just implementation. We also assist clients before the implementation phase with advisory services, change management services. Many of those quote-to-cash journeys will consist in digital transformation. So you're going to think differently how you sell your products and your services through that transformation. And not all companies are ready to have that long-term vision of how it's going to work. So we can help you in that area to define this journey on which you are embarking. Then we also can help you after implementation with managed services. You might not have the necessary skill set or sufficient resources to maintain the implemented solutions on your own. So we can complement your own team or even do it all for you with managed services after you go live. Every quote-to-cash project that I worked on, it's a few hundred of them now, it's a long-term journey you're going into. It's not just a one-time implementation, then you're done, you forget about it. Your company is going to evolve, it's going to grow, hopefully grow, and you will have new needs. So you need to adjust the implementation, the solution, to make sure that it can support new product lines, new pricing models, and so on. We work with many of big brands. You probably all know Intel, McAfee, company like this. And just like mentioned, the product is for companies of all sizes. So we work with small, medium, and large companies equally, and across all industries as well. CPQ is for everyone. There was a survey a few months ago by Forbes who was asking the participant of the survey why they were going through a CPQ implementation, and the answer for most of them was to improve their business. But it's improving based on multiple criteria. You might want to streamline your processes, automate some of it. You might want to better control how you discount, how you price your products. You might want to improve how approvals are done around those quotes you send to your clients. So there can be many reasons, but at the end of the day, the goal is really to always to improve the business environment and the results. So what it is at a high level, CPQ, C for configure, P for price, Q for quote. Many companies try today to look at a different way to sell products and services. You're no longer selling just products, you're selling a solution to the client, something that has value to your clients. Products by themselves are, in many cases, just commodities. It's the value you add to those products and services that's going to make you grow and allow you to win on your markets. From a pricing perspective, this is usually where companies are the most creative in complexity, in originality. You can see some very basic price models and some very complex ones. So when you work with CPQ, you want a tool that allows you not only to support completely out of the box the most common pricing models, but also allow you to extend the tool to do more complex stuff. And that's where Salesforce CPQ excels at. From a quote perspective, it's good to put products on a quote, price them, but you have everything that happens next. You need to close your deal. You need that quote to be approved. You need to present it to the client, get acceptance from the client, and when finally the client accepts, yes, you close win your opportunity, but a whole new set of processes are triggered. Provisioning, fulfillment, billing, and so on. So let's talk a little bit more what we look for when we talk to a client for each area. From a configuration perspective, I like to ask clients that they explain to me how they sell their products. Imagine that you just hired me as a new sales rep and I need to learn what you sell, how you sell it, how can you be successful closing a deal with a client. That will make you think about common constraint you have between those products and services. You might not be allowed to sell two products together to the same client. On the other hand, you might be required, if you sell one specific product, to sell another one at the same time. It can be just a suggestion, an upsell, or a cross-sell. So all those things you can take care of during configuration using the configurator in CPQ. There are some constraints also. One that is well known is you cannot sell some specific software in some countries. This is a known fact. You need to follow regulations. Have your CPQ tool automate these controls so that you know your reps are not going to make any mistake. You're going to make their life easier. CPQ is a lot about automation as well. Especially if you're in a high growth environment, you want to be able to support that growth without having to hire many more people just to take care of the administrative part of the process. You can use Salesforce CPQ to guide the reps into how to configure, to even do the entire configuration automatically for you, just by asking them a few questions. So if that's a possibility for the products and services you sell, you should take advantage of it. Pricing, another area where automation is very important. Do as much as you can there. If your company has a policy to offer volume-based discounting, for example, don't rely on reps to input the correct percentage of discounts. Have the system do it for them. Extremely easy to do. In Salesforce CPQ, the tool provides you everything you need to automate those kind of common discounting schemes. A lot of growth in the SaaS business model, as you all know, in all industries. It's not just in software. And that means now there is an introduction of an incentive for the clients to buy for a longer term. And of course, you see now discounts that are based on the length of the contract that the client is going to sign with you. Again, the CPQ tool should support that. Very often, you negotiate special price with your special clients. They're all special, but some are more special than others. So you're going to negotiate for specific product, high volume product maybe, a specific price. Your CPQ tool should be able to retrieve that information automatically for you. No guesswork anymore for the sales rep. They don't need to go through contracts, if they even know where they are, to bring the correct price for that specific client. But of course, there is always that last thing, the discretionary discount. It comes on top of everything else. You need to be able to control easily how it participates in the price waterfall, so in how you go from list price to net price, to give you maximum flexibility, but also control over what happens on the quote. The last part, queue groups, actually a lot of additional processes. Once you finished preparing your quote, configuring your products, pricing them, you're likely to need to submit for approval. Again, the tool should allow you to implement from simple to complex approval schemes. So in complement of Salesforce CPQ, there is also advanced approvals that extend significantly what you can do with native approvals in Salesforce, and that is designed in a similar way of how the CPQ product itself is designed. So mostly controlled by master data and no coding. You'll need to generate a nice looking, branded, professional proposal, quote document or multiple versions of it. You might not present the same information when you're selling your products traditionally on a one-time basis versus when you sell them on a SaaS basis, on a recurring basis. So the tool should allow you to present that information dynamically on the quote document based on the quote context, but also the opportunity, the account. And coming back to Max was explaining, the fact that Salesforce CPQ is so tightly integrated with the platform, with the core platform itself, means that all these things are very easy to do. Once you send that quote to your clients, you can also use third-party application. Max was mentioning some of them. Salesforce CPQ integrates very well with electronic signature application, DocuSign, Adobe Sign, and so on. But also now we see a big trend into extending that part of the process with CNN, contract lifecycle management. And the most important piece there is a redlining process. If with your quote you send complex legal document like an MSA, you're pretty much guaranteed that your client's attorney, lawyer, is going to want to revise your terms. And lawyers don't like to work with structured data. They only work with Word. It's known. So contract lifecycle management tools allow you to reconcile together unstructured data with structured data. Whatever is the result of that redlining process, you need to convert it back into structured data so that you can act upon it through automation. This will become more and more important with the new accounting guidelines. Probably heard of them, ASC 606. Does that ring a bell? Yeah. So more than ever now, you're going to need to automate those kind of considerations. Now, if you want to control your performance obligations under ASC 606, you will need this kind of capabilities. And finally, an important piece of the whole process, if you are selling recurring products and services, is the ability to renew those services. You're all familiar with that one because you all bought Salesforce licenses, so it's a similar model. But you need also to be able to easily amend those contracts that were signed during the life cycle of the contract. And that's where Salesforce CPQ is extremely strong in supporting those kind of transactions. So what are the potential benefits? Because everything becomes structured data through the entire CPQ process, that means now you have visibility to that data in Salesforce. That's another piece of the 360-degree view of your accounts, your clients. And you can run advanced analytics from that information to allow your management teams to make the best decision to continue the growth of the business. Visibility also means you will know exactly what happens with those quotes. That means you're going to have precise visibility over discounting, how your reps are discounting. Most of the time, what our clients are saying is that after using CPQ, they see decreased discount level, which means higher margins. And of course, your executives are going to like that. So that visibility is very important. The sales rep also are going to hopefully have a good user experience. It's a big part of how you implement the tool, so never forget about that. But if you do give them a good user experience, they're going to be able to quote a lot faster. Reps don't like to build quotes. They want to sell because they get commissions. That's their paycheck. So give them more time to sell, less time to deal with the administrative part of their work. Make them happy. At the same time, because Salesforce CPQ is based on easy implementation, maintenance over time, and that's because it's driven by master data more than by coding, that allows you to implement actually some very complex scenarios with minimum effort. So speed to market, speed to go live is accelerated compared to the prior generation of tools. And the famous Salesforce no software, I put it here as no coding. That obviously doesn't mean that you cannot code. You will have scenarios that are not supported out of the box, which will require some coding, hopefully not too much. But most scenarios we've encountered, with some exceptions, were reasonable coding, easy coding. That's because Max mentioned about focusing on providing a configurator plugin. We already have plugins all over the place in Salesforce CPQ. There are 10 or 12 of them. The one that is mostly used is one that extends the pricing engine. So this one is used the most frequently. There is another one that allows you to completely automate configuration. That is less frequently used, because few companies have already thought about how from just a few simple questions you can configure an entire solution. It's a different way of thinking about your products. It's not easy. But it started the process level. You can learn about CPQ in many places. I think Max mentioned Trailhead. There is a community site coming from the Steelbrick days, community.steelbrick.com. You will see many of my posts and answers on that site over the years. I believe it's currently being transferred to the Salesforce Success community. So you can no longer ask new questions on the steelbrick.com community, but you can read the posts. And all the answers you can answer to existing posts. And at Simplus, we also offer some free training, so don't hesitate to ask us if you want some additional information there. I want to give you a few pointers, especially for those who are about to embark on this CPQ implementation journey. But even if you are in the middle of it, it might not be too late for some of these aspects. These are all going to give you a higher probability of being successful. It's all about being ready. And you need to be ready in many different aspects. First, you need to have a team. It's not just your partner. That team is going to be more than people from your sales department. CPQ is not just about sales. It's a cross-department implementation and process. You need to involve sales ops, finance, legal, provisioning, and the list goes on and on. Because you will need so many people to collaborate together on your side, you need to have executive sponsorship as well. The higher, the better. You need to have somebody who moves the boat in the right direction at all times. Make sure you train that team if possible. You will greatly benefit if you go to the CPQ training class before you kick off your project. The more you have knowledgeable people participating in that implementation, the more ready you will be to take ownership of the solution at the time you go live. And it's very important to do so. From a process perspective, take a good look at how you currently run those CPQ-related business processes. What are your pain points? Why do you have such pain points? Is any business process broken somewhere? If it's broken, fix it. Or consider including fixing it during your implementation. If you try to automate a broken process, you're going to make it worse. So make sure you think carefully about your good example approval authority. If your approval matrix is all over the place today, you probably have a way to simplify that. If you need 20 people to approve a quote before it gets done, your clients will never see your quotes. They need to see it like a few minutes after you submit for approval. So it's all about automation there, simplification. Make sure you have healthy business processes because those drive how the implementation is done. Are your requirements ready? A typical example is that when we go to a client, they know a lot about their products and services, but it's tribal knowledge. There is no documentation. I've seen situations where the knowledge or the person owning that knowledge was even gone. And that can be disastrous, so make sure you document as much as possible. If you have never done it, now is the right time if you go on that implementation journey. Documenting it makes you think about it, makes you discover whether or not you have to fix a few things in the process. Data. CPQ is a lot about data. You have data all over the place. You have your product catalog, obviously. You're going to need to put those products on a quote. But it's not just that. You have pricing data. We talk about volume discounts, term discounts. These are company policies. Are these policies documented? You have the data ready to be consumed or not? And finally, but that one is the easiest one because it's all Salesforce, just like it would be easy if it was all CPQ. Have an environment ready for implementation. Usually it's a sandbox. The good news is that you don't need a full sandbox thanks to Podly Mover. So I think that is going to talk to you a lot about it. And that's excellent news. All right, I'm done for today. Any question? No? Yes?
Clearly you come from Steelbrick and have a leaning towards Steelbrick. Simplus is a company that serves a lot of companies.
Right.
Do you also support other CPQ and quote-to-cash products in the Salesforce ecosystem?
Right, so the question is Simplus and the implementation partner only implementing Salesforce CPQ or other CPQ tools? The answer is easy. We do pretty much only Salesforce CPQ.
Okay.
That might change, but that's what we do today. Yes?
How are promotions and bundles handled? I didn't see much about promotions.
Right. Yeah, it's all about another use case in pricing. So the question is about how do we handle promotions. Every CPQ tool is going to handle it very differently, by the way, in terms of technical solution and design. So you need to take advantage of what the tool is good at doing. And then it will also depend on the kind of promotions. There are all sorts. You have an easy one or fairly easy one where you say, you know, for this month, this product gets 50% discount. One of the easiest ones to implement is done with a price wall in Salesforce CPQ. You're going to have it in place in 5 minutes. Then you have some more complex stuff, like if you buy 3 of this product, you get 15% discount on that other product. This one is a little bit more difficult, but it can be done too. Then you have much more complex stuff that can happen that would require to have a temporary duplicate of what is called a bundle in Salesforce CPQ to put those pricing constraints directly in the promo version of that bundle. A bundle is a mechanism by which you group several products together for configuration control, so those constraints, dependencies, exclusions, but you can also do some pricing stuff around it. And then the list can go on and on. It can be extremely complex. So each case has to be analyzed differently. I believe that Salesforce is thinking about a way to make it easier. When I was there, we already talked about it. It's a frequent request from all clients. So hopefully it will come as an out-of-the-box functionality one day. Yes?
Do you see any complexities around the sales catalog and the entitlements by the time they reach the end product they start seeing disconnect over time when people try to deprogram or they buy a SKU, they remove it, and then there's complexity around it in terms of the entitlements itself.
So the question is about, do I see complexities into handling entitlements?
How do you handle that, basically?
Right.
What's best practices?
Right. Again, that's going to be, in my experience, actually the requirements are fairly different depending on the client you're talking to. There are 2 major versions of how they handle entitlements, especially when it comes to handling that concept of bundles. So when you have a set of products and services, and the more typical example is a company that would sell, for example, an appliance with some hardware options on it, and then they have a bunch of different support options on these different pieces of hardware. And that's where you see the 2 models. The first one is that they will want to see one entitlement for each specific piece of hardware that is covered by the support. And the other philosophy is to say, I only want one single entitlement, regardless of how many support SKUs I put on that code to support those products, and regardless of how many pieces of hardware I include in my appliance. And then you see some variations that are in between of those. At the end of the day, I don't have any specific preference. I mean, every time I face that, the client had good argument to convince me that this was the right thing for them to do. CPQ does not support fully all these models out of the box. The one that kind of summarize information from multiple assets or subscription into a single entitlement, that will have to be a custom build. But the first version, the more simple version, where you have a one-for-one association between your asset or subscription and your entitlement, that one is pretty much supported fully out of the box. So then some companies decide based on do I need or do I want or can I afford a customization? Or do I change my process because I cannot afford or I don't want customization and I'd rather do with what is available out of the box? In that case, it becomes a business process change.
Okay, we'll take more questions at the end. So
All right,
give you a break. And
thank you.